And jury deliberations begin next week in the historic case of a mother charged for the first time for a mass shooting committed by her child. Jennifer Crumbley faces involuntary manslaughter charges for the 2021 Oxford High School shooting by her son, Ethan. Closing arguments wrapped up yesterday with both sides laying out their cases for the jury.
She could have stopped at home on the way back from the meeting. She goes right by her home to see where the gun was. She could have stopped on the way back to work. She could have searched the backpack. She could have asked her son where the gun was. She could have locked the ammunition. She could have locked the gun. She could have taken him home. She could have taken him to work. He could have gone with Dad. He was door dashing. She could have told the school that they just gifted him a gun.
This clearly was not foreseeable to Mrs. Crumbley, because there's no one in the world, including Mrs. Crumbley, who would have let a school shooting happen and let what happened on November 30th take place. Not only ruining the lives of so many families and victims and taking the lives of 4 young people, but also ruining her own son's life and ripping his life right from her as well.
I'd like to bring in defense attorney Misty Marris. Misty, great to see you. So what's your take on the closing arguments?
So 2 diametrically different points of view, of course. Now, the prosecution did a really good job of narrowing in on that fateful day, the day of the shooting, and talking about all of the different actions that could have been taken by Jennifer Crumbley. Just to remind you, she goes to a meeting with the school. There's a very disturbing drawing that depicts a gun and some disturbing statements, and a decision is made to not take Ethan out of the school. So prosecution very much focusing on that. Defense taking the other side and saying, you could be her. This was not foreseeable. There's parents on the jury. All of this has context. She had no idea that her son would be capable of such a terrible act. And to do so, the defense attorney really focused actually a lot on herself, but tried to really connect with parents who would feel that basically that this was not something that Jennifer Crumbley could have ever seen coming.
Okay, let's zero in on that, because, you know, this is a case. If you're the defendant, you really need to connect with the jurors, right? You need to somehow convince them, you know, to take a walk, you know, in your shoes. Do you think that the defense attorneys were able to successfully do that?
Yeah, you know, I actually think that the prosecution's cross-examination brought up some, went a little too far, Fred. And I say that because the prosecution in their cross was really focused on her hobbies and Jennifer Crumbley spending time and money on a hobby, her time at work. And I do think that might have alienated some people, because that's not a legal standard. Reasonable minds are going to differ about how much time you should allocate to family and to other activities in your life. There's no legal standard that would speak to that. Now, the defense attorney took that a step further in the closing and described her own life and said, hey, look, sometimes I don't answer my kids' text messages. To me, some of that might have been a little bit too much focus on the defense attorney herself. However, the point was made that this was a situation where the prosecution is cherry picking these text messages, and you're not looking at it from the full context of a situation in your life, that it wasn't so obvious that Jennifer Crumbley would believe that Ethan was a danger in this way to others. And Fred, another point that the defense did a really good job on was talking about that meeting at the school, because the school also did not see a risk. The school also did not escalate this and search Ethan's backpack. So all of those factors are going to be incredibly important as the jury deliberates.
So and the prosecution is trying to exhibit or try to show that there was real willful negligence here by Jennifer Crumbley. Correct. So we're going to find out what which side, you know, the jury chooses on this when they begin deliberations on Monday. Misty Marris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred.